It's the Verzuz Battle that we've been waiting for. Listen, we've been waiting for this Verzuz Battle for a long time. From a technical perspective, there are quite a few things that I can address from this Verzuz Battle. And when I mean few, I mean few. In today's recap, we have a few things that we can discuss from a technical perspective, of course, when it comes to Brandy versus Monica. So, let's get it. What's up, everybody? It's your girl Chris, better known online as the Black Techie. I'm going to say this once again for the people in the back, and I hope that Swiss and Timberland hear me when I say this. Listen, man, for real, please keep this format the same with artists in the same room, because the shit works. Now, it's been a few days since the last Verzuz Battle, and I must admit that this one was highly anticipated for some time. From a technical perspective, I definitely noticed quite a few things. When it came to the audio, Brandy had great quality coming from her microphone. In the beginning, Monica's quality kind of had a lot of backfeed, but it definitely improved much later on during this Verzuz Battle. I'm curious to know if a sound check took place for this Verzuz Battle, because if it didn't, this could have been another opportunity where it could have helped if a sound check had been done prior to the battle beginning. The second issue I noticed was Apple Music. For the most part, there were a lot of issues with sound going in and out, and also buffering issues during this battle. This wasn't visible during the beginning of the Verzuz Battle, but when we started getting into like the second hour or even later on in this battle, there were a lot of issues with sound going in and out, and also with buffering. I know that there were 1.2 million people that were on Instagram watching this Verzuz Battle, which shows how much support and love that they have for both of these artists. I'm curious as to know what the numbers and metrics are for Verzuz when it comes to Apple Music. Those numbers haven't been released yet at the time of this recording, so hopefully I can update that information in the description or in the comments below, because I do believe that the streaming quality and having such a large bandwidth, even though the Apple has great capacities for technology, it could have impacted if there were a lot of people actually watching on this server at the same time. From a data perspective, it's definitely a lot of people. They can make Apple aware of these issues, and Apple on their end can actually make these adjustments for the next upcoming battle. But really, the Verzuz brand doesn't have really anything to do with it, but since they're partnering with Apple, it partly makes them responsible for that as well. And finally, a post-battle strategy. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to sound like a broken record when I bring up this point. I always talk about a post-battle strategy, and for the life of me, I don't understand why the Verzuz brand or even the artists don't have this a part of their requirements when it comes to these Verzuz battles. It's really not that hard. Here's the thing. We live in an instant and microwave society. This means that fans and consumers are paying attention to things that are visible in their face. You can post all these pictures on the gram all day. You can tweet something on Twitter. You can send a Snapchat video and post it and make it go viral all day long. However, if you don't have a post-battle strategy, you are leaving a lot on the table. The Verzuz brand should make this a requirement for artists going forward. The fact that Brandy and Monica are both independent artists now, ownership should be extremely important when it comes to them going forward. They should want ownership of their digital assets. Now, digital assets for artists is something that they can control, like fans' mobile numbers or their email addresses. That's the way that these artists can control the narrative. That's the way that they can have control of their audience. Since these ladies are both independent now, it's more important than they may know. Now, I get that Brandy and Monica are leveling up their content game on social media, but let me remind them and you watching this video that we don't own social media, nor do we have control over these platforms. It is more important for Brandy and Monica to focus on their digital assets going forward. And once again, digital assets means their fans' mobile numbers or their email addresses. Now, Monica debuted some new music on this Verzuz Battle, but what I would have loved to see is her push her audience to a platform that she could have controlled. She could have shared a snippet for about 15 seconds and told her fans to text new Monica to, whatever mobile number she was using for her mobile marketing or her text marketing campaign. Or she could have bought a domain textnewmonica.com and just told her fans to visit that URL to get their information as well. This way, she would have been able to have a platform she could control and also have digital assets, her fans' mobile numbers or her fans' email addresses, and been able to push them to a list that she could have controlled. Now, since Brandy just released a new album entitled B7, what she could have done is content that she probably has that's probably behind the scenes of this entire process. She could have turned that into a text marketing campaign. She could have told her fans to text the hashtag B7 to a mobile number of hers as well, or she could have sent them to the URL textb7.com for them to sign up, provide their information for her to give exclusive behind the scenes content of her working on the B7 album. The point is ownership. Ownership is important for independent artists or any artists that participate in these Verzuz battles. Brandy and Monica should leverage social media, but they shouldn't rely on it. The Verzuz brand should also encourage that as well. I'm grateful that as an 80s baby, I got to grow up in the early 90s and early 2000s during this particular and unique music era. I will say that I'm grateful for Swiss Beats, Timbaland, and I also give Missy a shout out too, because we know Missy had a huge part in making this happen. This was definitely a nostalgic and entertaining battle, but I'm definitely glad that the Verzuz brand gave the people what they wanted. I hope going forward that the Verzuz brand continues this format of having artists in the same room, because once again, the shit works. Now, you can always count on me, your favorite techie, to provide you with the Verzuz Battle technical recaps here on my YouTube channel. To find out when my next Verzuz Battle technical recap drops, click the link in the description below to sign up for my YouTube mobile alerts. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, I'm technically yours. Peace. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you want to check out the rest of my Verzuz Battle technical recaps, because there are quite a few at this point, click the video on the screen right now to watch my Verzuz Battle technical recap playlist. Trust me, you'll definitely be entertained.